Okay, why don't we get started? First of all, welcome back to an afternoon session at the 2020 Live Well Advance. My name's Jack Pellegrino. I'm the Director of Purchasing and Contracting here at the county, and it really is a pleasure to speak with you all today. Thank you for joining virtually. It's a little bit different than what we've done in the years past, obviously, with the with our Live Well Advance, but you know, this is such an important event to the agency and to the county. You know, I really appreciate that the agency has pressed on and we were able to adapt it, and I'm really looking forward to your participation today and your questions, and also thank you for working with us as we adapted to go from an in-person to a virtual conference. So hopefully you're going to get a lot out of the earlier sessions and the rest of the sessions today, and this one specifically. So with that, let me introduce, I'm very pleased to introduce Cheryl Brown, who is a colleague of ours with the Small Business Development Center. And she's going to talk a little bit today, and I'm really pleased to announce our new partnership that she's going to brief you on, to talk about services that will be available to nonprofits and organizations that are supporting the county. Although her presentation is going to be a little bit more global than just the county, because that's what small business does, bigger than just the county. And then I'll get into our specifics of about doing government business with the County of San Diego. So Cheryl, thank you for being with us today. Let's see, I think we have a very good group of folks, attendees on. So why don't we start with this? There's two ways to respond. We'd like to start with a poll. I'd like to start with a poll for anyone that's on. There's two ways to respond to this. You can either go to your browser, and Judy Yang just put it up on the chat features. There's two ways to do it. You can go in through the internet to get to pollev.com, and then put in, if you click on that, get the Jack Pellegrino Pelly 355 and register, and that will allow you to respond to this poll. Or you can text it from your cell phone. If you text Jack Pelly 355 to 22333 and register, that will get you into the poll. Okay, so thanks, Judy, for putting that up there. And by the way, Judy Yang, I didn't introduce her, but she is my manager here at the county for outreach and education, and really she keeps me on track and keeps me where I need to be and when I need to be there. So she'll be monitoring the chat feature today and making sure that we get to all your questions. So with that, I see that some people have already been able to respond. And the first question is, which of these apply to your business? And as I said, you can, as it says there, you can respond more than once. As you see, many of our participants, I'm not surprised to see that Health and Human Services, predominantly, we have many nonprofit and CBO organizations involved. It's really great to see some minority-owned businesses there. This is great. Thank you. We'll let the numbers settle a little bit. Is this great technology or what? Go figure. See, my teenagers have nothing on me anymore. I can do this stuff. Right? And Cheryl, I know you can relate too. Okay. Okay, well, I think this was helpful. Thank you for everyone that responded. And this gives kind of some good context for both Cheryl and myself, and for Judy as we go forward. Let me kind of set some framework for you from the county's perspective. And one of the reasons I was really excited to participate again with this session at our Live Well Advance. You're going to see when we get to my numbers, a significant amount of what we do is through our partners, our contractors, our suppliers, through the community, providers in the community that provide services for the community. So, you know, one of the things that I've tried to do since I've been here, you know, our key principles are transparency, equal access, the ability to understand and how to do business with us. And that's something that, you know, we're always looking to improve how we do business, how we can help contractors become engaged with us. It should not be overly daunting to do business. And I know that might be the urban legend is, oh my God, I don't want to, you know, do business with the government. They're kind of a pain. And we have some requirements, but you can do business with us. And that's where I'm really excited to have our partnership with SBDC because they can help organizations, grassroots organizations, small businesses, minority businesses, learn how to do business with us and successfully. And that's the key thing, because the more involvement we have from the community, the better we're going to be able to serve the community. Okay, so with that, I'm going to pass it. I think our first poll is done. So this is really good. Again, I really appreciate this. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Cheryl. Cheryl?
Thank you so much, Jack. And it's really an honor to be part of this event, especially being virtually. It can be obviously a challenge. So thank you so much for inviting me to participate. And I'm really looking forward to our new partnership to support the County of San Diego and their purchasing efforts, as well as the small business community in San Diego County to help them to do business with the County of San Diego, as well as other government agencies and entities here. So thank you so much. Let's go here. All righty, so my name is Cheryl Brown, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about pursuing opportunities with the various government entities, and then we're going to kind of switch it around a little bit to announce our new program that's going to be coming out that's specifically going to support the County of San Diego. But regardless of the avenue you take, there's a lot of reciprocity with the approach. So a little bit of a background for those of you who are not familiar with who we are. The San Diego Imperial Valley SBDC Network, Small Business Development Center, is a resource partner through the SBA, the Small Business Administration. And they are funding our services so that we can provide no cost, free, zero cost support to you, the small business community. And so we do that in a couple different ways, through our trainings, through our events, but most importantly, one-on-one advising. And that's really where the bulk of our funding comes from. And so in addition to the funding we receive from the SBA, we're also supported by a number of other entities within the community, our host institution, Miracosta College and Southwestern College, other agencies such as SANDAG, State of California Department of General Services, the County of San Diego, City of San Diego, SDG&E, a lot of the prime contractors such as Balfour Beatty, Sun Construction, Turner Construction. All of these entities have a vested interest in the small business community, and they understand that the small business community lacks a key resource, and that is money. And so rather than having to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on a professional advisor to help you in any area you could possibly need assistance with, our services through the SBDC are at no cost to you. There are a number of resources out there that can help you at no cost, such as SCORE, PTAC, the WBC Women's Business Center, VBOC, Veterans Business Outreach Center. There's so many resources out there that you can take advantage of at no cost to you. So before you get shystered or salesed into, paying for someone to help you, reach out to one of us and we can get you connected with somebody that is at no cost to you. And so my name is Cheryl Brown. I've been with the program since 2007. I am the most senior member of our network. And I got involved with government contracting back in 2003, 2004 as a hobby. I don't know who does that, but it's worked out for me. It is very weird. But this is what brings me to where I am today. In 2020, I've worked with over 2,500 small businesses, most of them parties of one, dinners for two, maybe if you include all the kids, a family feast for five. So we're talking small business. We're not talking small business with 450 people or employees. We're talking about 5, 10 employees at the most, for the most part. With our support, we've been able to help those small businesses secure. Now I have 600 million here. That number has now changed to $700 million in contracts. And all of the support provided to secure those contracts was done at no charge to those small businesses. This year alone, in 2020, I am proud to say that we have had a record-breaking year with our support in government contracting. We are at $190 million awarded to the small business community this year alone. And so if there's one thing I can say about government contract, there's a couple things I can say. But number one thing I can say as you look at pursuing government contracting is that government contracting can actually bring you a stability that no other market segment can provide you. For those clients that I've been working with prior to COVID-19 that had been pursuing government contracts, although their businesses have been impacted by COVID-19, they have managed to stay afloat and survive because no matter what, government's always buying. And so it's really important to incorporate this sector into your business model. And then depending on the services and products you provide, you may have more or less opportunity, but that's where we come in, is to help you identify what it is you need. In addition to the support we provide with government contracting, we also have a network of over 100 different advisors that can help you in almost any other area of your business needs. If you are just starting out and want to start a business, maybe you're a foodie and would like to open up a cottage food business, business planning, funding, access to capital, marketing, strategic planning, even technology commercialization. And so with over 100 different advisors, if you have a need, we have an advisor that can help you. And so please take advantage and take a look at the resources that are available to you before you start paying an advisor hundreds and thousands of dollars of money. So without further ado, let's really jump into what is a government contract. Well, life is complicated. There's a lot of things out there that seem very, very overwhelming. Government contracting, unfortunately, happens to be one of them. But I'm here to tell you, and try not to laugh or roll your eyes. Let my kids do that. They do that enough to me. Government contracting can actually be the easiest thing you do if you can just grasp one simple concept. Do what you're being told to do when you're being told to do it, and you will be good, even if it doesn't make sense. Because I'll tell you right now, it probably won't. Sorry, Jack, government's not the most logical sector to be in when you're a small business owner. I mean, we understand it because this is what we do and we live it. But for somebody coming from the outside and they look at a proposal that's 180 pages, you're like, what is this? But that's why we're here. We're here to help you to navigate that and do all the heavy lifting at no cost to you. And so trust me when I say this, it can actually be the easiest thing you do if you can follow the instructions. And that sometimes can be hard. So let's keep it really simple. What is a government contract? Simply put, a government contract is any purchase made with your tax dollars. That's it. Whether in part or full, it is considered a government contract. Now you pay federal taxes, you pay state taxes, and then you pay local taxes. And so depending on what monies are being used to make the purchase from the government entity, there are rules that they've got to follow. These rules are not made up by the people that are at these agencies. Jack didn't make these rules. In fact, he probably doesn't even agree with some of them, but he is bound by the law to follow those rules. And so when those rules come into play, we need to make sure we're following those rules. Well, how would you know which rules to follow? Well, you probably wouldn't, especially when you've got an agency like Caltrans that receives federal, state, local, grant. They receive all kinds of funding sources. And so how would you know which funding source they're using and which rules you need to follow? And this is where it gets a little complex. Let me keep it simple. Whatever they tell you. You're not going to be expected to know the difference between the federal FAR regulations, federal acquisition regulations, or the SCM, State Contractors Manual, or the CFR, Code of Federal Regulations. You're not supposed to know all that unless you're a government consultant, government contracting consultant. That's what we're here to help you navigate through. So try not to stress too much over all of these legal jargon, mumbo jumbo, the 178 pages. We're here to help you kind of navigate. The more you see these things though, the more it's going to make sense. That's one thing I promise. You can't do it all in one day. You know, it's kind of like that whole thing is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And that's the same kind of component and approach with government contracting. Now, there are also other entities that also will have some of the same requirements, same regulations, even same incentives as these government agencies. So any entity that is regulated by the government. So think public utilities. So SDG&E, your water districts, even your cable companies, your phone companies, your internet providers, they're regulated by the government. So they're also going to have some of the same programs and same requirements. Entities that are subsidized. So entities such as hospitals, institutions of higher education, even grocery stores, they are subsidized by your tax dollars. So they're going to also have some of the same requirements that they have to follow. And then for those of you who are eligible for various certifications, such as small business, women-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned, large companies that have supplier diversity programs, so such as the big guys, Costco, Walmart, HP, Dell, Home Depot, Amazon, they have supplier diversity programs. So they're going to also have some of the same programs in place that supports the small business community. But simply put, a government contract is any purchase made with your tax dollars. And when that purchase is being made, there are laws that must be followed. Some of the things you want to make sure you consider before you jump into shark-infested waters is your company ready to be successful? It's one thing to bid on a project. It's another thing to win the project. But sometimes the worst thing that can happen to a small business is you actually bid on a project and win. Because now you've got to perform. And the areas that you need to kind of take into consideration is your access to capital funding. If there's one guarantee, if there's one thing I can guarantee you, you are going to need money. If you win a contract, you're going to be expected to perform on that contract before you're able to invoice. Not the whole contract, but maybe by month. Sometimes it can be the whole contract. And typically you're going to be looking at a net 45 payment term, but there's a little key there. upon approved invoice. So you gotta kind of think about, okay, how are you gonna float the cost of that project between performance and payment? There's only one way to do that, and that's with money. And so if you don't have any access to funding or access to capital, we have advisors that can help you with that and help you identify what your options might be. But if you're in a situation where this is not possible for you, it doesn't mean you're done. Excuse me. It just means that we might have to look at even smaller projects so that we build up that cash flow. Things like bonding and insurance. So if you're in the construction trades, you're already familiar with bonding. You're going to need more. That's a guarantee. Insurance, general liability. You're going to be looking at least a $1 to $2 million general liability policy that includes errors and omission and the ability to add the agency as an additional insured. I mean, there's a couple of other things too, but you'll need to know how much is that going to cost you? And will your current insurance provider even be able to provide that to you? So these are all the things that you want to kind of have in place as you're working towards winning a contract. Other areas as far as like, what is your plan to hire? What is your plan for supplies? Do you have multiple suppliers that you're utilizing? How are you going to process payroll? Are you going to do that in-house? Or are you going to outsource that? How are you going to find people? Before our COVID-19 pandemic, we were at an all-time low with unemployment. So trying to find qualified employees was a nightmare. Now come hit COVID-19, now we're all required to stay at home. And then of course, with the health and everything going on, it's even that much more difficult. So, if you win a contract today and you have to hire 20 people to perform, how are you going to find them? How are you going to process their payroll? Then we go back to how are you going to float the cost of their payroll? So there's all these little things. This is kind of like the hard stuff to take into. A couple other things. These are mandated by law. Past performance, that means what you have done as a company, and pricing. These two items are mandated by law. A government agency must award to a firm that can demonstrate they have the ability to perform and they have the best pricing for the agency. And then finally, the sales cycle. If you are someone who is into instant gratification, which I totally am, I want everything yesterday, which is interesting because government contracting is not like that at all. You're in it for the long haul. In general, a sales cycle is defined as from the moment you say hello till you get a contract. And there are different types of sales cycles. So for example, a business to consumer market, your typical sales cycle is 1 to 30 days. Hello, impulse purchasing. Business to business, you're looking at more of a 90-day sales cycle. Business to government is more of a 6 to 12-month sales cycle. And that's only if you are consistent and persistent in your marketing, in your outreach, in your responding. Now, there's always exceptions to the rules. I have a client who started working with me in April of this year, so right at the beginning of the lockdown. They've received their small business certification at the end of April. The first week in May, they received their first purchase order for $25,000 from the state of California. They had never done any government contracting before. This was only their second year in business. To date, I just spoke to them today. To date, they are looking at billing $380,000 for 2020. In 2019, they billed about 90,000, all because of government contracting. So yeah, a sales cycle in general, 6 to 12 months, but there is wiggle room there. But again, these are some of the things that you want to consider. And it's not that you have to have all of these things perfectly in place to get started. It's just things we want to start working on while we start pursuing opportunities with the different agencies. Judy, do we have any questions as of this time? Are we going to be waiting to the end? I'm sorry, I blanked on that one.
Actually, Cheryl, thank you for that. I actually saw one that popped up on the question and answer one. And Judy, I think you saw it there, but I'll take the first cut at maybe giving this answer. And Cheryl, you can correct me if you have a different view of this. But the question was, just to be clear, when you say small business, are nonprofits included with that umbrella term? And my answer is yes. Small business, nonprofit is a tax status, not necessarily a small business is someone that is under certain thresholds, and some organizations, for example, the state of California has a criteria of what the state of California defines as a small business, as far as number of employees and number annual revenue. So that's one, I'll call it classification of a small business, but there's different levels out there. And a nonprofit is your IRS filing status. So do you want to comment on that, Cheryl?
Yeah, so even though a nonprofit cannot be considered a quote unquote small business, it has its own special qualification. And being a nonprofit can open up doors and contract opportunities that would not be opened up for even small business. So you could approach, hypothetically, you could approach an entity an agency as a small business, and they can utilize a different procurement method to award to you that they wouldn't be able to do for a small business. So and it depends on the agency, but like for the example, the state of California, they have a NCB, non-competitive bid, and exempt by policy. And that policy is because you're a nonprofit. So they don't have to bid the project, they can just award it to you, providing you can demonstrate you have the ability to perform because you're a nonprofit. And this does vary among agency to agency. It really, whether or not they can contract to you in that way is going to depend on the funding source being utilized. But so a nonprofit cannot be a small business, but they're treated in the eyes of the agency as a small business with even sometimes more benefits. Here. And so we have another question that's come in. Do contractors, small businesses have to clear insurance requirement at the time of a bid or when awarded? Great question.
Yes.
For the county, yes. Other agencies at the time of award. So some agencies will require that you submit the insurance documents with your bid. Some agencies will allow you to supply those insurance requirements after the bid award. You usually have 10 business days to do that. But you want to make sure you have that in place ready to go, regardless of whether or not they require it at the time of the bid or the time of the award. But the county, yeah, you got to submit them at the time of your bid.
If I may, Cheryl, that becomes part of our evaluation criteria, that you accept all our terms and conditions and you have the proper insurances, because we are evaluating a firm's capability to perform, and many of our contracts require that you perform immediately upon signature of the contract or very shortly thereafter. So that's why. And you're right, sometimes it depends. Sometimes on the construction side, we may allow some period to get the bonds in place and those types of formal legal documents.
Perfect, Jack. And this is where it can be a little bit difficult for small businesses, because here in San Diego County alone, let me see here, there are over, oops, I'm going to go back past this. And I'm going to go over. Oops, wrong one. So I'm going to pause this for a moment. Here in San Diego, there we go. That's what I was looking for. I was going too fast. There are over 2,000 agencies represented in San Diego County alone. Every single one of them has their own requirements, their own guidelines, their own rules. And so it's important to identify those agencies that are going to be in alignment with what you as a small business or a nonprofit can address. So you may look at opportunities with the County of San Diego, and you may see that they have several minimum requirements, and maybe 2 of them you cannot meet. Well, then you need to wait before you start pursuing the County of San Diego. Identify maybe some of the smaller municipalities. So it's, even though you may not be ready for, say, the County of San Diego, you're certainly ready for, say, the city of Carlsbad or the city of Vista. Same thing kind of with the school districts. You know, San Diego Unified School District has some pretty hefty pre-qualification requirements. And when we talk about minimum requirements with a government agency, those are literally minimum requirements. If you cannot meet them, don't even move forward. They're not even going to be able to look at your proposal because you can't meet that. So there's a huge opportunity here in San Diego. We have the 2nd largest government spend in the nation, just behind Washington, D.C. And now, here's one that some of you may or may not realize. When we combine all the opportunities, 90% of the contracts that are awarded, they do not require a public bid. Now, the county is a little bit different because almost all of their opportunities, I believe it's over 25,000, have to go through a formal procurement process. But Jack, I believe you'll kind of touch upon that a little bit more. But for example, state of California, if you are a small business certified by the state of California and the project is under $250,000, that buyer only has to get 2 quotes from 2 certified firms. If you're a nonprofit, that buyer can utilize a special clause that awards it just to you. That's never going to hit the streets. And so I always get the question, then how do you find out about those? Because those are the good, that's the good stuff. By identifying the buyer and knowing what is needed from that buyer. And that's going to be something that we're going to be covering. We already cover it in one of our government contracting series that we teach, which is on demand, but we're also going to be covering that specifically in our new program that we're going to be rolling out with the county in just about, I think, a week. Certifications, I hear a lot about the certifications, you know, woman-owned, minority-owned, small business, disabled veteran, getting these certifications. Listen to me. The certifications are not required. They are not a legal mandate. However, if you are eligible for some of these certifications, they can help you be competitive over those that are not certified. They can also open up opportunities that may not have been otherwise opened up to you without the certifications, but they're not required. So you don't have to wait to get your woman-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned small business before you start, you know, planting the seeds with these different entities. As I mentioned, it can be one of the easiest customers if you can really just wrap your head around following the instructions, and it's growing. This year alone, we have seen a huge growth with government contracting. And even though there are definitely going to be budget cuts, a budget cut for one of these government entities is like picking up a penny for us. Even though there are budget cuts, they're still going to be purchasing. I'm going to take a look here. You have questions? Nope. I got questions. I don't have questions. All right.
So Cheryl, if I may, maybe what we can do is, because I want to make sure that I get into the specifics. You've set me up very well to answer the unique things about dealing with the County of San Diego, which I know many of the people on this session are interested in that. But if you could kind of close out with your last slide. I don't know if there was one last slide about announcing what our joint program together is going to be.
Perfect. Yes, I can certainly do that. Ooh. A couple different, didn't know how much time. Sometimes we run out of time, so I wanted to make sure I had enough content.
Yeah.
Announcement. So we are ecstatic and honored to have formed a collaboration with the County of San Diego in developing a training series that is designed for small businesses, specifically on how to do business with the County of San Diego. And this is also going to include uncovering and identify obstacles that the small business community might be facing, as well as providing one-on-one support for those of you interested in doing business with the county. We're going to have 6 modules. They are going to be live modules. And our first module is going to be kicking off next Friday from 3 to 5. We're allowing for a 2-hour time frame. That way we have enough time to answer questions. Although I don't know if we're going to need the full 2 hours, but we wanted to make sure that we had ample time to answer questions and provide that content. So module 1 is going to talk about introduction to the County of San Diego and how to navigate their procurement panel, which if you have not been in their procurement portal, it is one of the best that is out there. And I'm in thousands of these on a daily basis. There is so much information. It's super easy to navigate. I just love it. You'll have an opportunity to register. You do have to register in order to get access to it. And you can find our link here. In fact, what I can probably do is probably put that in the chat so you can have it directly as well. But from there, the upcoming modules is going to be creating a foundation for success, what to expect, a viability test. We're also going to be introducing the county small business program and department. We're going to module 4 is going to be about proposal writing, specifically with the County of San Diego. And I have actual bids and template responses of award-winning bids that I'm going to be able to share with you. We're going to also cover what's next after you've been awarded a contract, talk about contract financial management, and then we're going to finalize the entire series with Meet the County of San Diego buyers. And so these events, each module is going to be on the second Friday of the month, barring any kind of holiday that Friday might fall on. So every second Friday of the month from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. So if you want to make a note in your calendars, and I'll make sure that I put these links into the chat function as well. I'll make sure also that I include our link to our robust contracting in a day, which is not just county specific, but more for general contracting. And then I'll also be sure to put my contact information in the chat feature. That way, if you have any questions, if something comes up, you need assistance, you can be reaching out to me. Over to you, Jack.
Thank you, Cheryl. Well, again, it's thrilling to have you part of our partnership here. And thank you for doing such a good job with the overview. Why is it important? You can see there are so many opportunities in the San Diego region. And it is why are we making a big deal of it here at the Live Well Advance? Because it's part of the County of San Diego Thriving Initiative. It's a fundamental part. Our economic, our businesses, our small businesses are the lifeblood of our region, just like they are across the whole nation. And with SBDC's help, with navigating the different customer sets there. Gee, I didn't realize we had 2,000 governments. I guess I didn't count, but look, I'll name the big 3. The big 3 are me, the city of San Diego, and probably San Diego Unified right there. Caltrans, but that's the government to the north of me, okay? And you have the federal government here. So with the significant footprint they have here. So that's why the number of being the second largest area in the nation for government contracting is so important. So then before I start I just have a couple short slides to share with you about what business we do. But before I do, if you could respond to this poll, what categories of goods and services does your business provide? And as you can see, I already have some folks in there, predominantly health and social services, which is the reason for this conference. Professional financial services, that's great. And other, we'll have to get some more detail what other is. So maybe you can put that in the chat if you are so motivated to do so, and that would help me and Judy. Okay. Well, good. So Judy, let's move to my presentation, if we can. So as Cheryl said, you know, we in the county of San Diego, we're probably, I'll call it second, well, actually third in the food chain, the federal, the government food chain. The federal being level 1, state being level 2, county being 3. And so many dollars that I spend. So here's what we buy at the county. So we have an operating budget of $6.5 billion a year. Now that includes all staff costs and all things in, but annually we spend 1.5 a year in goods and services. So that number usually takes my breath away when I say that, because there's a B after it. So we buy a lot of things, and it's, as you can see, health and civic services, 791 million of our spend is in health and human services, and civic services includes things like our libraries, our registrar of voters, things that support the community, if you will. The other categories you can see, there's you know, over 150 million in construction. Things like we're building a new Live Well center down in Southeastern Live Well Center. We're excited about that. The other big number you'll see on this chart is our information technology number. A little bit about that. The county is not doing that directly ourselves. We have an enterprise contractor called Perspecta, formerly HPE Enterprises, that provides all the enterprise IT for the county. Those firms that have IT services or IT equipment, the connection that we make is through our prime contractor Perspecta, through that, you know, contracting directly with them. Next slide, please. So with that, a little bit about how we buy things. We have what's called simplified. First of all, let me set the context. Something Cheryl mentioned. The way this county buys is competitively. Competitively, we always look for best value, and that best value is not only the best price, but the best combination of technical resources, capability, past performance. That's what best value means. Now, in some limited cases, I am required by state law, California law, to award to the lowest responsive bid. That's primarily on the construction side of our house, not necessarily on health and human services. On the health and human services side, social services side, we use best value, whether it be, you know, simplified procurement or what we call a more formalized procurement under an RFP. So simplified processes are things, we do have a P card program. Those are for low volume transactions, low value transactions that are from $0 to $2,500 for a transaction. They're not meant to be for repetitive transactions, and anything over $1,000, my county staff that have authorized P cards are required to get two quotes before they make a purchase with their P card. And then my department manages the program and audits those transactions on a monthly basis. The next level, as far as simplified, is something called request for quotation or request for quote. Those are things that are above the P card threshold that are up to not to exceed $250,000 a year, a transaction. And then lastly, moving over for what we call formally competitively awarded and negotiated are requests for bids. I mentioned that that's primarily in our construction area where we have very definitive specs or requirements, and we will award to the lowest responsive price in a bid during a bid opening, where we actually open the bids once they're received. RFP is probably our most used formal process, where that is a best value. And I always say it's technical factors and price. And that price not only needs to be competitive, but it has to be what's called fair and reasonable. Okay. And so that's based on I'll call it a trade-off between what the technical services are, what is being offered versus what is the price or the value that's being offered for that. Next one down here is something called a request for statement of qualifications. That is something that, again, we use in our construction area and our engineering services area, where we will form a list of experts and we will draw from that list to when projects come up that will be competitively bid. The last one, reverse auctions, is a pretty, we don't use it very frequently. We'll do things like we'll use a reverse, I call it a reverse eBay. In essence, for example, we may use it on when we buy our next fleet of cars, of our say our sheriff vehicles or other types of cars. We may put it out, and it's all the bidders that are pre-qualified will bid on that specification. And again, all of those are for transactions that are over 250K annually or in a transaction. A little bit about the way we contract. We contract on an annual basis, and that is, people ask me, well, why is that, Jack? Because our board appropriates funding, and our budget is an annual budget, which we adopt every year. Now, what we will do is we may establish a 5-year contract, but the appropriation is year to year, because one board can't commit future year boards without special action. So that's how we contract. Next slide, Judy. Where to start? First of all, you can view right now, every day, real time. If you went to the County of San Diego website, and across the top, you'll see the banner, and over to the right, you'll see business. If you click on that, and you'll come back over to the left, you'll see Department of Purchasing and Contracting link, and you'll also see view open solicitations. You could click on that. You will see every solicitation that's currently active and open right now without registering. Now, if you want to download that to possibly look at the full document package, you can do that, but you will need to register. People ask me, well, why do you need to register on Binet? It does a couple important things for you. It will allow you to specify what commodities you sell as far as goods and services, which will allow you to get alerts when I post something new in that is meeting that category. So my staff in DPC, when we have a new requirement from one of our 42 departments, will put a set of classifications based on what's called the UNSPC, which is the UN code for commodities and services. And we put multiple codes there, and you'll get pinged that there's a potential new solicitation that meets your profile. So that's really cool. And also, if you're interested in a specific solicitation, you can register for that solicitation, and it will ping you if we add an addendum. Say we do an addendum, and there is you want to be notified if we amend that solicitation. So that's why you should register in BINET. That's step one. The tool to the right is if I were starting business with the county, I would research, use our research tool, and you can see a copy of every contract that I've awarded since 2014 in this system. You can do a wildcard search under search document content. You can put keywords in there and it'll bring you up a PDF copy of those contracts. Let's see, next slide, because I know I'm very short in time and I want to leave at least a few minutes for questions. Here's a couple, we do have a local business program, a small business program, a veteran-owned business program, and a disabled veteran business program. Let's move to the next slide, Judy. So in closing, what I would say is, please take advantage of the new opportunity that we have with SBDC. And Cheryl, I know she does outstanding, her and her team does outstanding work. Register on BINET. And as Cheryl said, great, is read the solicitation, respond to the solicitation, because not all solicitations are written equally. Even from my organization, we do over almost 1,000 solicitations a year, okay, in a great broad area of what we're buying. So they're not the same, okay? Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask them of Cheryl, ask them of Judy and my staff, the PCO. With that, I think I only have 3 minutes left for any questions. Judy, is there anything out there we want to try to answer right now?
Not right now, but if folks have any questions, please go ahead and put it into the Q&A box. We're happy to take them.
Okay.
Cheryl, how was that for, like, I'm trying to keep up with you, you know?
I know, you know what, I think you did great. And I gotta say, in the last 18 months, the county has really revamped their procurement process, and it's a huge help. It's really improved. The procurement documents are very clear. And so you guys have done a really great job with upgrading your procurement process to make it easier for the small business community to be able to respond. And I appreciate that.
Thank you. A lot of that has been driven by the folks that are here. My attendees have been, have given us feedback and said, can you do this more clearly? And so we've been trying to listen and do what we can to improve that. So we're not perfect, but we're getting there.
And it definitely shows. And I see all kinds of proposals from all different agencies. So the county has transitioned from being a little bit more difficult to being one of the easier agencies to do business with. So, and I certainly appreciate that. I know the small business department community does too.
Good. Okay. I don't see anything popping up here. So with that, I guess I'll say thank you again. We look forward to answering your questions. We look forward to you engaging. Look forward to building your businesses, because a stronger group of small businesses in this region serve us all. So, Cheryl, thanks again.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you. Looking forward to working with you and helping you.
Happy holidays, everyone, and have a good conference.